Hello my friends, again we're at this local airfield, the place where I sometimes like to film my videos. Here you can see some of the swans, there are lots of them here. All of that white, I don't know if you can see on this kind of the fisheye camera, but there are lots of them here. I just finished my gym workout, I nearly fainted there. Maybe too much pressure, I'm still on a diet, so I barely eat something. But anyways, today I want to speak about my original language, which is Russian. So how am I Ukrainian, speaking Russian language? And I don't want to change to Ukrainian. Yeah, there is absolutely zero sense for me to do it. And I don't want it, and I will continue to speak Russian within my family, with my friends, and also English. Also partially within my family and with my friends. If you didn't know, I was born in Crimea, originally from that place. Yeah, it's the Russian-speaking region which is now being occupied by Russia, as well as many of the other Ukrainian territories, mostly southern part of Ukraine, Crimea, eastern part of Ukraine. Those regions are Russian speakers, I mean really Russian speakers. But I would agree that Russia had its own influence, propaganda. For decades they put their propaganda and brainwash on local people, also touching the language aspect. And I'm very disappointed that Ukraine is also touching that aspect, not in a good way, because now in Ukraine there is propaganda of Ukrainian language. Yeah, in some way it should be, defines Ukrainian identity. You have your own culture, you have your own language, but the way it is done, even on official level, well, it actually pushes me to speak Russian more, because it is so much aggressive. Like, even some of the kids were bullied in the school for speaking Russian, and there are lots of the Ukrainian refugees within Ukraine who left the Russian-speaking regions and they have never spoken Ukrainian. They went to Ukrainian-speaking regions, and there they've been bullied also by locals. Yeah, it's the fact, it's the situation as we have in Ukraine. So they not just suffer because of the Russian occupation, but now they suffer because of this attitude. And you may believe me, you may not believe me, but I say you real facts. There are also some of the YouTube videos of our activists who went to Lviv, they tried to speak Russian, and they've been bullied by locals, yeah? And yes, not all of them are like that. There are many sane people living, but that is concerning me, yeah? There is the national division in Ukraine, also based on the language you speak. And that aspect I don't really like. There are lots of the so-called Ukrainian patriots who live in the safe areas, and they like to scream how big patriots they are. Or in many of the cases they left Ukraine. Yeah, I also left Ukraine, but I'm not shouting that I'm Ukrainian patriot. No, my family is more important for me, honestly, and I'm free to tell about it. I'm honest with my audience. But there are many people who live in Europe and elsewhere, and they scream how patriots they are with all of the Ukrainian flags, and how they're against Russian language or any sort of the things. Well, if you are screaming that loud, why did you leave Ukraine if you are so much patriot? Yeah, I understand some of the people who are volunteers, who are working to collect funds for Ukraine. That is what I do sometimes. I have my own friends in the Ukrainian army, so I help them a lot. But there are multiple of the people who just create some of the posts on Instagram, Facebook, blaming other Ukrainians for speaking Russian, you know. And what I don't like, that Ukrainian government, I mean part of the Ukrainian government, some of the members of parliament, some of the Ukrainian officials, they sponsor that stuff. They create this hatred and national division within the country. And you know, if I've been pushed by someone to do something, I reject it. I reject pressure, and I'll do everything against it. So if I've been pushed to speak Ukrainian, no, I will continue to speak Russian, because it's my native language. It's the language of my grandparents, my mother, my father. It's my history, and I think in Russian still. Yeah, I translate those words in English, but I think them still in Russian. As well as for speaking Ukrainian, I'll have to translate those words. I like Ukrainian, actually. I like the way it sounds, especially songs. Potential of this language is really high. Even though it's kind of close to Russian, Russian, but Russians, they do not understand Ukrainian. I can freely speak Ukrainian, yeah, but I still have to think initially in Russian. I understand that probably I'll get some of the hate for my opinion, but that is my opinion. And if I speak Russian, it doesn't mean that I like Russian policy or Russian regime. My dream is actually for Russia to collapse into different states and for all of those states to have their own official languages, as well as small Moscovia state, yeah, in Moscow, maybe St. Petersburg, make Russia small again. That's my dream, guys. In that case, Russia would never ever be so aggressive, and language has nothing to do about it. And there are lots of the Ukrainian warriors who continue to fight for Ukraine, but at the same time they are from the Russian-speaking regions of Ukraine, and they continue to speak Russian. And even they sometimes face some of the bullying, especially online, and they have the same outcomes in their thoughts, yeah. I know because I monitor their channels, their telegrams, their opinions on Facebook and so on. So they also reject that proposal if it is done aggressively. Changing the language is a very private thing, and you should do it voluntarily, not under this pressure that no, your kids should never talk Russian even on breaks in the school. That is what Ukraine introduced, yeah. I think it's nonsense. Oh, Muni flown is gonna be a little loud here probably. Very fast airplane for the piston engine, yeah. So this change for Ukrainian or for any sort of the other language should be done voluntarily. I understand that there is now war in Ukraine, that I should propel Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian interests elsewhere, but I do not associate Russian language with Russia alone. There are 2 times more people speaking Russian in the world than population in Russia. It's ICAO language, it's international language, hundreds of millions of people speak it. And Ukrainian, well, it doesn't have this status. Not many people actually speak on it outside Ukraine. And even in Ukraine, millions of people still speak Russian. So if Ukrainian government really wants for Ukrainians to change for Ukrainian, it should not be done that aggressively. There should be investments done to propel that language among society. Competition is the only way to succeed. In the place where this language is used, like in the songs, in the books, even in media, yeah? But again, it should not be done like aggressively. No, we're gonna sell books just in Ukrainian. No, there will be TV programs just on Ukrainian. Now it's similar to that actually in Ukraine. So officially in Ukraine you can still speak Russian, but you can be bullied for that, as I told you already, yeah. And all of your communication is a very close circle of people, your family, your friends. Well, for me it is like that, but compared to what it was before, I cannot use it that widely in Ukraine any longer. And then I was in Ukraine, I spoke with people in Russian, but in some of the official places I spoke Ukrainian, just in case. And you know, I live in Switzerland because my wife, she has some of the relatives living here, so we changed to this country, and we should learn from it, especially this policy towards languages, because this country has multiple of the official languages. And if they speak German, yeah, I understand there is the Swiss dialect, it's different compared to Hochdeutsch, so original German, but still they learn Hochdeutsch in school, they write on Hochdeutsch, and no one has any sort of the issues about it, even though there were some of the tensions during the Second World War between Germany and Switzerland. Actually, Hitler wanted to occupy Switzerland. He just understood that it would lead to severe losses for his army. That's why he decided, okay, let it be like that. Switzerland is Switzerland. But there were some of the clashes between Air Force, Luftwaffe of Deutschland and Luftwaffe of Schweiz. By the way, Swiss pilots were better. They shut down more of the German airplanes than Germans shut down Swiss airplanes. Despite they were flying the same fighters, Messerschmitt Bf-109. Yeah, I just touched some other topic here. So here people, they are not being pushed to speak some certain language. They have multiple of the cantons, and every canton has its own language. And you can change, yeah. And it's better to learn local language, but it's not like very mandatory for Swiss to understand everything. People, they don't know French, sometimes people, they don't know German. Well, they learn those in school, but from what I see, they, in many of the cases, use even English to communicate between each other, because it's multinational, international, the most international language. It's actually profitable to speak English. I like it. After Russian, it's my second favorite language, and maybe after it I'll put Ukrainian. Again, from the languages I know, I can speak English. I'm not fluent in it, but I can express my opinion. Probably you understand me. And as for Ukrainian one, again, it's a fantastic language. I have nothing against it because I'm Ukrainian myself, but I don't see why I should speak it. It will not make me more patriot or something, and in my videos I continue to tell that I'm not a patriot if I'm here outside Ukraine by the time Russia attacked Ukraine. I try to do something for Ukraine, but it's incomparable to sacrifice our warriors made on the front lines, and many of those warriors, they continue to speak Russian, as I say to you. Yeah, I'm not asking to make Russian as an official language of Ukraine. Absolutely no, there should be just Ukrainian one. Otherwise, the destiny for Ukrainian language will be not so good, like you might see in Belarus, yeah? Who speaks Belarus language in Belarus? Just minority. So I think that there should be only Ukrainian language, official one in Ukraine, but at the same time the interests of the Russian-speaking community, they also should be included in Ukraine. Yeah, I understand that I may sound like Russian propaganda here, but it's the reality. There are lots of the Ukrainians who speak Russian, and I'm one of them. And I will continue to speak Russian probably till the day I die, because I think on it, it's my mother freaking native language. And it's a private business of every sort of the particular individual what language to choose for communication. Because I also heard bullying for those Ukrainian content creators who continue to use Russian, for example, for their videos. They've been bullied by those crazy commenters, so-called patriots, but in fact those commenters, as I say to you, they do nothing for Ukraine, but they create this hatred, yeah, wave of hatred. Oh, you still speak Russian after Russia attacked Ukraine, oh my god, shame on you, blah blah blah. But the fact that this particular creator, for example, collects funds for supporting Ukrainian army, it doesn't matter for them. Language is the most important thing. Ooh. So fuck them, I'll continue to support Ukraine and speak Russian at the same time. Because believe me or not, but I also received those kind of the comments. Then all of my channels are in English. Pilot blog, Denys Davydov. By the way, I have a Russian surname, but it doesn't mean that I'm Russian. However, I have some of the Russian blood, but still Ukrainian blood is more. So I'm a content creator in English in all of the social media, and still I was bullied because in my usual life I speak Russian. That's the most nonsense, yeah, and that's why I will continue to speak Russian. Why should I be pushed for something that, well, maybe I would like to speak Ukrainian, but I don't want to have this pressure on me. Don't push the horses, like Usyk says. Oh, look at those geese. Fantastic. Soon they're gonna leave this area, because it's already cold, kind of cold here. And there's the helicopter Robinson R44, yeah, with a piston engine. $500,000 for this heli, very popular one. Yeah, probably you'll not see it, it's far away on this camera. I need to have the zoom camera, but I decided to take my Sony X3000. I like this camera a lot, especially for the sound. It's nice, should be nice. So basically, guys, speaking Russian doesn't make me a Russian supporter. I think it's understandable from the activity I do. And I risk a lot actually supporting Ukraine in this public way, because my channel is kind of big with Ukrainian updates and with all of that counteracting to the Russian propaganda. Also, knowing Russian helps me a lot to find the information sources from the Russian side and to counterfeit their propaganda in the most effective way. But this mindset of so many Ukrainian so-called patriots who are against Russian language. Well, I think it's just a stupid idea to fight against the language. People will still speak it whether you like it or not, but it's the variant to communicate between people. That's it. Once on a stream, my Swiss subscriber asked me a question. His wife, I think Ukrainian, yeah, he said that she's a Ukrainian and maybe she speaks Russian. Well, I don't remember the story, but the fact that there were some of the Ukrainians in Switzerland who refused to speak Russian with some of the other Ukrainian, maybe his wife, I don't remember. So they refused to speak Russian. Not like, okay, we refuse to speak Russian with you, can you speak Ukrainian or English or Deutsch with us? Because we just don't like to speak Russian, you know, and it is kind of understandable, yeah? But they behave like, what are you saying? We do not understand you, and this is silly, come on. You just say, I don't want to speak Russian, let's change for another language. They say nothing, they behave like, no, we don't understand it. Then in fact, just say it, you know? Speak Ukrainian with me, or speak English, which is, I think, in this case more profitable because they live outside Ukraine. And the strange thing for me that Ukrainian government supports that. Some, yeah, again, not all of the Ukrainian government, but the vast part of members of parliament, they create this national division around language. And I think Russia fuels it from inside. I think there could be some of the Russian FSB spies in Ukraine who tell Russia is the bad language, we need to attack Russian speakers or something like this. Because I heard from many of the Ukrainian officials, and that is scary, which right now especially is not profitable for Ukraine. It is conflict from within, from inside, destabilization of unity of people. Then Russia attacks Ukraine, continue this crazy aggressive barbarian action even against civilians. By the way, mostly Russian speakers, because those regions where Russia attacks, there are Russian speakers. Russia bombs Russian speakers, their houses being destroyed, they're being killed, and Russian speakers, of course, they don't like Russia also because of that. And again, I also speak Russian, but I don't like the Russian government. I don't like Putin's regime. It's normal. I like to sit in this place. Oh, so nice. Yeah, the topic for today is it's butt farting, yeah? Yeah, probably I'll have some of the hate for it, I'm not sure, but there was already hate for me because people mentioned that I speak Russian or what. And if we take English in context, why it is so widely spread? Because England and great British Empire, they conquered the world and they killed lots of the people in the process, and so what? We still speak English and no one hates this language and everyone wants to learn it, especially in those countries which were occupied by great British Empire. In United States you speak English, yeah, mostly, but there was the military conflict between British Empire and United States. That is how United States gained independence, but still the language is English. So language could be the part of the cultural identity, but not always. Yeah, Americans see themselves as Americans, even though they speak English. So I personally think broader. You know what? I understand some of the Ukrainians who really suffer because of the Russian attack. They had their own personal loss and they want to get rid of everything Russian, including Russian as a language in their communication. I understand that, but still no one has a right to push someone for something, especially for this private business as language, because it can or cannot be part of the cultural identity, but it is for sure the part of personal identity. And I identify myself as a Russian speaker, even though I'm not Russian. And yeah, thankfully I also know some English, because without it I would be screwed. I wouldn't become a pilot, I wouldn't become YouTuber or influencer, as many people call this activity. Yeah, I would struggle really just knowing Ukrainian. So English is must-have, and now I need to fight myself to find the time for learning Deutsch. I like German, it's fantastic language, and I just need to spend more time for it to speak it, because it's definitely needed, especially when I live in a German-speaking community. Yeah? And now guys, I'll continue my hike because it's time to lose more calories. I'm now on a diet to lose the weight. I just watched my older videos just to compare, you know, how I look now and how I looked before. Oh my god, I was I was so much fat and I lost so many kilograms. I cannot specify. We'll do a recap later, maybe in 6 weeks. And somehow, even though I eat less, but I feel energized. Yeah, today in the gym it was kind of hard for me. I need maybe more sugar energy to pump the iron. But in general, I feel so much better on this diet than never before, and less depression, less everything. And I want to record more videos for you guys, so bear with me, stay with me, and ciao.